The early morning fog clung to the narrow paths of the old cemetery like a damp, silent shroud. Jessica Myers walked slowly, each step careful, her worn boots crunching softly over frost-hardened earth. She held a small leather satchel tightly against her chest, a ritual she had maintained for over a decade. Inside were her tools: a trowel, a small watering can, a packet of seeds, and a faded photograph of her daughter, Emily. Every Tuesday, without fail, Jessica made this pilgrimage. The cemetery had long been forgotten by the town, tombstones weathered beyond recognition, names eroded by wind and rain. Yet Jessica's habit tethered her to this place, to a mound of earth she had tended with trembling hands for years. She knelt, brushing aside the tall grass and weeds that had begun to reclaim the grave, and whispered a name she had repeated countless times: "Emily, I'm so sorry." The words were heavy with guilt, a weight that had never left her shoulders. She had buried Emily herself, a desperate act after the accident that the town had presumed fatal. No one knew the truth. The secrecy of the burial had become both her penance and her anchor. Each seed she planted, each drop of water she poured onto the soil, was a ritual of remembrance, and, in some ways, hope that the life she had lost could somehow reach her through her dedication. Jessica's hands trembled as she arranged a small bouquet of wildflowers along the edge of the grave. The habit had become her life. She had stopped attending social gatherings, cut ties with old friends, and even ceased going to work regularly. The cemetery and the ritual of care were the only constants she could trust in a world that had been shattered. That morning, as the fog shifted and the sun struggled to pierce the gray veil, a strange sound broke the silence, a rustling, soft and tentative, almost like the gentle steps of a child. Jessica froze mid-motion, her heart leaping in her chest. "Emily," she called, voice breaking and uneven. The wind carried the sound away, and for a moment, silence reigned again. Then she saw it. A small figure, shadowed and cautious, emerged from the trees. Jessica's breath caught. Her mind screamed that it was impossible, that Emily had been gone for so long. Yet the girl's eyes, bright, curious, and alive, were unmistakable. The resemblance was uncanny. It was as if time had folded upon itself. "Mom, I'm alive," the girl whispered, stepping closer, her voice soft yet filled with an unmistakable certainty. Jessica staggered back, her hands gripping the satchel as though it were a lifeline. She shook her head, unable to reconcile what she saw with the decade of grief that had defined her existence. Her routine, her habit, her ritual of mourning, it had been built around a lie, yet somehow, in a way she couldn't comprehend, it had preserved the memory of a life that had not ended. The familiar world she had known, the world of pain, secrecy, and ritual, suddenly shifted. A life she had thought lost was standing before her, a living, breathing testament to hope, persistence, and the strange power of habits that anchor the human soul. Jessica dropped to her knees, her tears falling freely now, a mixture of relief, disbelief, and an overwhelming, impossible joy. She reached out, trembling, and the girl took her hands, closing the distance that years of absence had created. Jessica sat on the edge of her small kitchen chair, her hands still shaking, the morning sunlight streaming through the window and catching the tears on her cheeks. Across the table, Emily, her daughter, alive, breathing, smiling, looked at her with a mixture of curiosity and cautious joy. For years, Jessica had lived in a haze of grief. Every Tuesday, she would return to the cemetery, tending to the mound of earth she had secretly prepared for her daughter, whispering apologies into the soil. That habit had been her punishment, her anchor, the ritual that kept her tethered to a memory she feared would vanish. She had believed her world had ended that day Emily had died. Yet, somehow, that same habit had preserved the bridge to a life she never imagined she could reclaim. "Mom, I waited," Emily said softly, her voice carrying a strength Jessica had not expected. "I never forgot you. I knew you would find me." Jessica's breath caught. The ritual that had been born of pain, countless hours kneeling, watering flowers, speaking into the silence, was now revealing a miracle she had never dared hope for. Every habit, every small act of devotion, had become a thread connecting her to her daughter across the impossible gap of time and circumstance. Later, in the town hall, the authorities listened in disbelief as Jessica recounted the story. Emily's disappearance had been a mystery for years. Records were lost, memories faded, and assumptions had hardened into accepted truth. Yet here she was, alive, a living proof that consistency, love, and hope, even in grief, could defy expectation. Days turned into weeks as Jessica and Emily began rebuilding their lives. Jessica's old habits, those rooted in sorrow, slowly transformed. The cemetery visits were replaced with morning walks together, laughter echoing through the town streets instead of whispered apologies into the soil. The ritual of guilt became a ritual of gratitude, a daily habit to celebrate presence, life, and second chances. One evening, Jessica held Emily close, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant shades of gold and crimson. "I lost you once," she whispered, "but I never stopped hoping, never stopped showing up." Emily smiled, a sparkle of mischief in her eyes. "Mom, that's what brought me back. You never gave up." Jessica realized the truth. Habits shape destiny. The power of doing something consistently, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, can ripple through time, shaping reality in ways no one expects. Her grief had given birth to perseverance, her ritual of mourning had maintained a bridge of hope. And now, as she held her daughter, Jessica knew that habits could also rebuild lives, heal wounds, and reclaim what seemed lost forever. In the days that followed, Jessica started teaching Emily the small routines that had once been her anchor, caring for a garden, writing daily thoughts, and speaking with gratitude. The habit that once chained her to despair had become the foundation for a life of joy, resilience, and love. The moral crystallized in every laugh, every shared glance, every tender touch. The smallest daily actions, born of love and persistence, can defy fate, transform sorrow into strength, and even bring back what was thought lost forever.